Welcome back to Narrations. Tonight's movie is sharp, darkly funny, emotional, and surprisingly tender, a modern retelling of a timeless story about power, loneliness, and what happens when a man forgets how to care. This is Scrooged. New York City glows with Christmas lights, but beneath the sparkle hums something colder: ambition, pressure, and endless noise. Television screens flicker everywhere, filling homes and offices with advertisements, promotions, and manufactured cheer. Christmas has become a product, and nobody understands that better than Frank Cross. Frank is the president of a major television network. He is wealthy, powerful, and completely detached from the world around him. His office sits high above the city, sleek and cold, decorated with modern art and sharp lines. Frank doesn't do warmth. He doesn't do kindness. He does ratings. On Christmas Eve, Frank oversees the live broadcast of a twisted, hyper-violent version of A Christmas Carol, complete with explosions, guns, and terror. To him, fear sells better than joy. Compassion is outdated. Sentiment is weakness. As employees scramble around him, Frank barks orders with cruel efficiency. He humiliates subordinates, fires people casually, and mocks anyone who dares question him. Christmas bonuses are dismissed as unnecessary expenses. To Frank, people are replaceable. Results are not. Early that evening, Frank is visited by his younger brother James, a gentle, kind man who still believes in family traditions. James invites Frank to Christmas dinner, offering warmth and connection. Frank brushes him off with sarcasm and impatience, unable to understand why anyone would slow down for feelings. Later, Frank encounters Claire Phillips, his former girlfriend from years ago. Claire is warm, sincere, and deeply committed to helping others. She works at a homeless shelter, spending her Christmas caring for people society has forgotten. Seeing her unsettles Frank. She represents the version of himself he abandoned, the boy who once believed love mattered more than success. Their conversation is awkward, bittersweet. Claire sees through Frank's arrogance, recognizing the loneliness beneath his cruelty. Frank hides behind jokes, pretending he feels nothing. But the night is only beginning. Back in his office, alone amid glowing monitors and city lights, Frank is startled by a sudden, violent interruption. His mentor and former boss, Lou Hayward, appears on the television screen, burned, decaying, wrapped in bandages, his face twisted with agony. Lou is dead. And he is furious. Lou warns Frank that he is doomed to a terrible fate if he does not change his ways. He speaks of pain beyond imagination, of chains forged by selfishness and cruelty. Frank laughs at first, assuming it's a hallucination, until Lou begins to scream, electricity surging through the screen, his body writhing in torment. Lou tells Frank he will be visited by 3 spirits that very night. They are his last chance. The screen explodes in sparks. The room falls silent. Frank tries to brush it off, but fear has crept in. Soon after, the first spirit arrives, the ghost of Christmas past, not gentle or comforting, but violent, erratic, and brutal. She crashes through Frank's apartment wall in a whirlwind of glass and wind, dragging him screaming through the city and into his own memories. They revisit Frank's childhood, revealing a lonely boy raised without affection. His father was cold, distant, and dismissive, teaching Frank that emotion was weakness and success was survival. Christmas was not joy, it was isolation. They move forward to Frank's teenage years, where he finds refuge in television, a world that offered applause without vulnerability. He learns that control and power bring security, that caring invites pain. Finally, they revisit Frank's relationship with Claire. They watch the moment where Frank chooses ambition over love, pushing her away in pursuit of status and money. Claire pleads with him to stay human, to choose kindness, but Frank turns away, believing success will fill the emptiness. The spirit forces him to relive the pain he caused, Claire's heartbreak, his own emotional numbness. Frank begs the spirit to stop, overwhelmed by memories he buried long ago. With a violent shove, the spirit throws him back into the present. Frank collapses, shaken, breathing hard. For the first time in years, guilt pierces his armor. But before he can recover, the room fills with warmth, music, and movement. The ghost of Christmas present arrives, loud, joyful, unpredictable, bursting with energy. She pulls Frank into the streets, into homes filled with laughter, chaos, and love. She shows him Christmas as it exists now, imperfect, messy, alive. They visit the homeless shelter where Claire works. Despite scarcity, the room glows with generosity. People share what little they have. Children laugh. Strangers become family. Claire leads with compassion, giving everything she has without expecting anything in return. Frank watches silently, disturbed by how much joy exists outside his carefully controlled world. Then the spirit takes him somewhere painful, to his own brother's home. Frank sees James surrounded by family, warmth, and love. He sees how deeply James has tried to reach him, how often he has been rejected. Frank's cruelty has wounded more than he realized. As the night deepens, the spirit's energy begins to fade. Her laughter slows. Her face grows tired. Before leaving, she warns Frank that time is running out, and the future will be far less forgiving. Darkness settles in. The final spirit arrives. Tall. Silent. Dressed in black. The ghost of Christmas yet to come. Frank trembles. He already knows what this one will show him. The final spirit does not speak. It stands before Frank Cross like a shadow torn loose from the night, tall and silent, its face hidden beneath darkness. The air around it feels cold and final. Frank tries to joke, to regain control, but his voice falters. He knows this one will not argue with him. It will only show him the truth. The spirit raises a skeletal finger. Frank is pulled forward into the future. He watches a boardroom filled with executives speaking casually about a man's death. They laugh. They complain about inconvenience. They argue over contracts and ratings. No one mourns. No one remembers kindness, because there was none to remember. Frank listens in growing horror as he realizes they are talking about him. The spirit moves again. Frank sees his television network continuing without him. His empire remains intact, but his absence changes nothing. He was not essential. He was not loved. He was merely a function, easily replaced. The realization crushes him more deeply than anger ever could. Next, the spirit brings him to a grim, lonely scene. A body lies alone in an apartment, unnoticed. Emergency workers move without urgency. There are no flowers. No visitors. No tears. Frank recognizes the space. It is his home. This is how he ends. Cold. Forgotten. Disposable. Frank pleads with the spirit, his voice breaking, begging to be shown something else, anything that proves he mattered to someone. The spirit does not respond. Instead, it shows him the people he has hurt. He sees his assistant Grace, a woman who believes in goodness despite cruelty, struggling to survive after being discarded and forgotten. He sees her exhausted, still kind, still giving, even when the world gives nothing back. He sees Claire, older now, still helping others, still full of compassion, but carrying the quiet sadness of someone who once loved a man who never chose her. Then the spirit takes him to the darkest vision of all. Frank sees his brother James grieving at a funeral. The service is small. The atmosphere is hollow. James speaks kindly of Frank, searching for something good to say, trying to remember a brother who once existed beneath the bitterness. Frank cannot bear it. He collapses to his knees, sobbing, begging for another chance. He promises, desperately, sincerely, that he will change. That he will be kind. That he will stop measuring life by numbers and power and fear. That he will live for people, not ratings. The spirit lowers its hand. The darkness shatters. Frank wakes in a panic, gasping for breath, drenched in sweat. The clock beside his bed reads Christmas Eve. He laughs wildly, half mad with relief, clutching the sheets as joy floods through him. He is alive. It is not too late. Frank springs from his bed with frantic energy, shouting apologies into the empty room, laughing and crying at the same time. He grabs his coat and runs into the snowy streets, overwhelmed by an urgent need to do something right. He goes first to the homeless shelter. Bursting through the doors, Frank embraces Claire without explanation, apologizing over and over, confessing everything he has been too afraid to say for years. He donates money, resources, his time, not as a performance, but as a genuine act of repentance. Claire looks at him, stunned, unsure, but hopeful. Next, Frank storms into the television studio, where chaos reigns. The live broadcast of A Christmas Carol is moments away. Executives panic as Frank hijacks the production, refusing to be stopped. They think he's lost his mind. Maybe he has, but this time, madness looks like truth. Frank marches onto the live set, grabs the microphone, and interrupts the broadcast, speaking directly to millions of viewers watching at home. His voice shakes at first, but then steadies with conviction. He confesses. He apologizes. He admits he has been wrong. He talks about fear, how fear makes people cruel, distant, and lonely. He talks about love, how it is messy, inconvenient, and absolutely necessary. He tells the audience that Christmas is not about money, ratings, or perfection, but about being present, being kind, and choosing to care. The studio falls silent. Frank points to Grace, bringing her on stage, honoring her goodness publicly. He thanks her for believing in him when he didn't deserve it. He asks forgiveness, not as a gesture, but as a plea. Then he does something no one expects. He invites everyone watching to be better. To forgive. To reach out. To stop waiting for permission to love. The speech is raw, imperfect, and completely sincere. And it works. The crowd erupts. Applause floods the studio. Phones ring endlessly. People cry. People cheer. Christmas, for the first time, feels real again. Frank rushes to his brother's home, where James answers the door cautiously, unsure what to expect. Frank embraces him tightly, apologizing for years of cruelty, for every dismissal, every wound. James forgives him instantly, tears streaming down his face, because that's the kind of man he has always been. Later, the family gathers. Laughter fills the room. Frank sits among them, no longer separate, no longer above, but part of something real. As the night winds down, Frank and Claire share a quiet moment. There is no grand promise, no forced resolution, only honesty, warmth, and the possibility of something rebuilt slowly and truthfully. Outside, snow falls gently over the city. Frank Cross stands at the window, watching the lights glow, feeling something he hasn't felt in decades: peace. He has not become perfect. He has not erased his past. But he has chosen to change. And that choice, freely made, honestly embraced, is the greatest miracle of all. Because redemption is not magic. It is courage. And on that Christmas night, Frank Cross finally learned how to live. If you enjoyed this narration, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Narrations, where stories are told slowly, deeply, and with heart.